also I've spoken about Winston Churchill. Winston Churchill was a supporter of Zionism throughout his life. He was also an English patriot. He was the epitome of English patriotism. He was an aristocrat from the aristocratic class, but he was in touch, sympathized with the common man, and he was also a gifted writer, an orator, and he helped England come to victory, overcome their adversaries. He had a full life and had many important achievements, and his first speech as Prime Minister in the beginning of the Second World War in the House of Commons, he said that blood, toil, tears and sweat, that was the speech that is famous for. And they included phrases that have reverberated down the decades, they are classics. And he said, I have nothing to offer but blood, toil, tears and sweat. There before us an ordeal of the most grievous kind. You ask what is our policy, I will say this: to wage war by sea, land, air and air, with all our might and with all the strength that God give us. To wage war against a monstrous tyranny never surpassed in the dark, lamentable catalogue of human crime. That is our policy. You ask what is our aim, I can answer one word: is victory. Victory at all costs. Victory in spite of all terror. Victory, however long and hard the road may be, for without victory there's no survival. Also, concerning after the Nazi conquest of France, 25th of June 1940, Churchill said, I expect the Battle of Britain is about to begin. Hitler knows he would have to break us in this island to lose the war. Let us therefore brace ourselves to our duty and so bear ourselves that if the British Commonwealth and the Empire lasts for 1,000 years, men will say this was their finest hour, and his other speeches along those lines. He, in effect, embodied aspects of British civilization. He embodied what we considered to be the characteristics of Ephraim. He, in effect, represents an expression of the spirit of the Messiah, son of Joseph. And the Messiah, son of Joseph, will be a real person. Like Churchill, will be a real person, who will have that title. And his presence is in that in the prophets. And it has been added to by numerous sayings and commentaries. And the descriptions of the personality of the Messiah, son of Joseph, in Jewish commentators, rabbinical commentators, often derive from descriptions of Joseph in the Bible. They analyze every little thing concerning Joseph, everything he said, everything that was indicated about him, and they apply that somehow or other to the Messiah, son of Joseph. Mashiach, son of Joseph, is a fulfillment of Joseph. He's descended from Joseph. He fulfills what Joseph was destined to do. So that is a point. And our analysis of this is built up on acceptable sources. We only use acceptable sources, that is kosher sources, but it doesn't mean that they're unanimously accepted. They are approved. In other words, you have sources that are considered worth learning, and but not necessarily in every case listening to. So those are the type of sources we use. Good that you're here. Anyway, we have an exciting talk, an ongoing exciting talk of great interest. Anyway, so anyway, it's good that you're here at the moment, and
it's good history, Yair. We're happy to hear it.
Okay, very good.
I was thinking about my time at Tamar, biblical Tamar Park, where Blossoming Rose is. Have you been there?
Say that again, I didn't follow.
Have you been to biblical Tamar Park in the Negev desert?
No, but I have never been there, as far as I know. But I did correspond with a lady who helped set it up. So a few decades ago.
It's very nice to visit there. They have some historical displays at a place where the English, I think the British Mandate was written, but they have names and pictures of the various prime ministers and important people before the state of Israel was set up. And it's very, goodbye, Jean. It's very interesting. If you were able to go and visit there, you could see where the 10 tribes are gathering. It's a very distinctly 10 tribe place. And busloads of people come there. People come around all year round to work and help the desert blossom as a rose.
Okay, it's good. I'll get in touch. I'll keep it in mind. I'll try and get down there.
Yeah.
I have a son who's a rabbi. He also teaches mathematics.
Mhm.
And he has he works on the yeshiva. He's a large family, but he likes to travel around. He likes to give us guided tours. So
it would be wonderful. Just don't make the mistake of going to Tamar. Some friends of mine, Orthodox, came to visit me there, and they thought they were going to Tamar, but it's Biblical Tamar Park. It's the archaeological site. It's very, very impressive. They have, I think, the summer palace of Solomon there, right outside your window where you're having lunch. You can see these important sites, and there are groups there doing digs all the time. It's a good destination.
okay.
And like I say, that's where the 10 tribers coming. They don't know who they are, most of them, but I tell them when I was there, I kept telling them who you are, why you're here. You're like Joshua and Caleb buying out the land.
Okay. So we'll go on a little bit more. We say Messiah, son of Joseph, will be from the tribe of Joseph. Either usually from an Ephraim, some will say Manasseh, most say Ephraim. He also has an associate, a minister of war from the tribe of Dan. The Messiah, son of Joseph, will descend from Joshua, the son of Nun, who was a disciple of Moses. Joshua conquered the land of Canaan, and all descend from Joshua, son of Nun. Or others say he is descend from King Jeroboam, the son of Nabat. King Jeroboam led the 10 tribes when they separated from Judah, when they set up their own kingdom, when they separated from Judah, which was headed by Rehoboam, the son of Solomon. So King Jeroboam was the head of that. He was the initiator of this division. So some say that the Messiah, son of Joseph, will be descended from him, and he will rectify, he will correct the division, the separation that Jeroboam caused. And also the two sources may both be correct, because maybe Jeroboam himself was also descended from Joshua, because he lived along many a good time beforehand. And this is what we have. And this is a framework that we can work with. And according to the sources about the 10 tribes, but concerning the Messiah, son of Joseph, and also the Bible, it says at some stage both Judah and the 10 tribes will be oppressed by Esau. Esau could be anyone, but the main countries who are dominated by Esau are Germany, Austria, and such nations, but also Esau, descendants from Esau, also helped create the Japanese nation. And early Chinese civilization, even though they were a minority, they were present and they were instrumental in setting up those countries. So they too could be a factor. We don't know. We won't know until we get there, but it's interesting that historically this has been a probability, a possibility in the First and Second World Wars. So it could happen again. We don't really know. At all events, the Messiah, son of Joseph, will help liberate the 10 tribes from Esau, and also help free the Jews who will be being oppressed by Esau, by Edom. And if we take that as it's written, we see that something similar did happen in the Second World War. You had the Jews representing Judah, and you had Ephraim represented by Britain. And after that, Britain together with the USA, and Britain with Australia, Canada, New Zealand were also important, and also South Africa at that time. And they fought against Edom, Esau, that is, I'm not saying Germany, Austria, Italy, even though I'm not saying that Italy are Edomites, or the Germans are Edomites, or Austrians, but there were Edomites elements amongst them. And they tried to rebuild Rome. Rome historically was identified with Edom. And both Italy and Germany and Austria wanted to rebuild Roman civilization. We often tend to think that the Germans wanted to go back to the old Teutonic barbarian existence, that they were their idols, and it's not so. The people who were in control, Hitler and Speer and others, they wanted to recreate Rome, Germany as Rome. They would say it's a Roman idealism. So did Mussolini. And so they themselves identified with Edom. And we have books on this. It's and at all events, and they persecuted the Jews. They were killing the Jews. And they were also oppressing or threatening the existence of Ephraim. And Ephraim came under Churchill, was led back into the front, and ended up defeating them and liberating the Jews and helping the Jews set up the state of Israel, which they did, despite everything. Despite everything you can say against this concept, it's a historical reality. So in effect, they fulfilled the role ascribed to the Messiah, son of Joseph. So we're getting close to the era when the actual person will appear. But already, in the same way as before Napoleon, with a pre-adumbration, a foreshadowing of what would happen, already in existence. So too we have a foreshadowing in our time of the Messiah, son of Joseph. And the Messiah, son of Joseph, he will war against Edom. Esau is also known as Edom. And also he will attempt to link up with Ishmael. Ishmael represents Muslims in general, especially Arabs. And the Messiah, son of Joseph, will help Judah overcome Ishmael. It's another point. The Messiah, son of Joseph, will help Judah overcome Ishmael. And that is what has been happening up to now. People from the Western we identify with the lost 10 tribes, with Joseph, have been helping Israel, the Jews in the state of Israel, defend themselves against the forces of Ishmael, against the Arab powers. So this is history. I'm telling you what the commentaries say, and you look around and read the papers. It's what's happening. And another point concerning, we should mention a point that according to the Maimonides, based on the Talmud, it says during the laws of kings and their wars, during the era of the Messianic king, once his kingdom has been established, and all of Israel has gathered around him, the entire nation's line of descent will be established on the basis of his words and the prophetic spirit which will rest upon him. As Malachi says, he shall sit as a rector, as a refiner and purifier. He will purify the lineage of the Levites first, saying he is a priest of the divine lineage, he is a Levite of the divine lineage, and so on. And after the Levites, he tells each and every Israelite which tribe they belong to. But we have other sources that say the Messiah, son of Joseph, will do this. Also, we have sources that say Messiah, son of Joseph, will rebuild the temple. And this will happen 30 years or more before the Messiah, son of David, appears. And it could be that both are true. If the Messiah, son of Joseph, rebuilds the temple, you have to want to put into practice a temple service. You can't put into practice a temple service unless you have priests, Levites, and Cohens to fulfill the service. And even now, though we have people amongst the Jewish community who are known as surnames of Cohens, surnames Levites, and many of them, it stands to reason a good portion of them really are descended from Levites and Cohens, but we don't really know. It's a long time, a lot of things happen in the meantime. A lot of water passed under the bridge. I know someone from Persia. He wasn't a Cohen, and he came to Israel and he told them his name, and they misunderstood what he said. And I wrote in his Tutor Tahut, in his identification citizenship certificate, Cohen, and he never changed it. So he and his children after him were known as Cohens. They're still known as Cohens as far as I know. But he says he's not a Cohen. So also I heard the stories. Other people deny them, but a lot of stories that the Jews who came to this island where the migrants were coming into America, they had funny sounding names, foreign names. So sometimes the official would just write down Cohen. So suddenly they became Cohens. And so names changes. People pick up names that don't necessarily apply to them. So the Messiah, when he wants, or the Messiah, son of Joseph, when he wants to put into practice the divine service, you'll have to choose Cohens and Levites. You have to be able to perceive who is who. And this is what he will do according to this source. But then later, this will, after he's done that, he will tell each and every Israelite which tribe they belong to. So as we said, Maimonides, this attitude, according to Maimonides, this attribute is attributed to the Messiah, son of David. It could be the Messiah, son of David, will come along and complete the process or confirm it. But it will be initiated by the Messiah, son of Joseph. So that is how we deal with the apparent contradictions in the sources. And also this is consistent with the rabbinical methods that often try and reconcile as much different approaches, different understandings as being aspects of the same phenomenon. Any comments, observations? Okay, Sylvia, go ahead.
I was having a chat with my son today, and he was asking, what are the tasks of the Cohen at the temple? And I was saying that it's not just at the temple, but they're teachers, so they would be disseminated throughout the land, having schools, and probably will, during the Messianic era, be sent overseas to all the countries that ask for Torah teaching. Would you think that would be it? And what all would they be doing, especially at the temple? Will the temple be kind of a center of government?
Yes, according to the sources, especially Ezekiel, but also other sources, the Jerusalem will be the center. The Messiah, son of David, will rule the whole world from Jerusalem, and some stage people from all the world will come up to Jerusalem. But even before then, his center will be in Jerusalem, and he will rule from there. And according to Ezekiel, the whole area will belong to the Messiah. Like the whole land is divided up into 12 tribes, and then from Ezekiel lists the 12 tribes from the south, from the north to the south. Yeah. And around about in the middle, there's an area allocated to the prince. That is the Messiah, son of David, we understand. And this is also the area of the temple and of the Levites, who should also belong to them, or they adjoin it. Or there are two areas, that of the prince and that of the Levites, two areas alongside each other. But But also we have at the end of Isaiah, we have different sources that in the end times the Levites will have a task. God will appoint them. They will teach all of the Israelites. They'll help teach. They'll bring everyone back to on the right path. And they will be given a task of their own, a task of instruction and administration. So the Levites will have their own role to play in the end times. So that's what the Bible says, indicates.
So will they be kind of like traveling judges, or will they be established in every town and have a Levite, or?
I don't know. I can't say until we wait and see. Okay, I don't know how things will happen, but the overall, also we get things are given in an overall sense, and according to the situation.
Yeah.
The Bible gives us an overall direction, and the details when it comes, the time comes, the details will play themselves out. Will become apparent.
Yeah. What do you think will be the case with the sacrifices? They'll be reinstated and there'll be 3 a day, or what will be going on?
So according to the simple meaning of the Bible, which that I too agree with, or prophecy of Ezekiel and other portions of the Bible, sacrifices will be reinstituted. There'll be sacrifices. There's a slaughter of animals and offering them up and eating their meat. That is a mainstream opinion. But Rabbi Koch, for instance, Rabbi Koch in some ways had revolutionary ideas. And he was of the opinion that we'll only have vegetable sacrifices, the mincha offering, the flour offering, the first fruits offering, and that will be vegetarians. So yeah, whatever you have, if you have something, if you have tendencies in certain directions, you can find sources to support them.
Right. We'll just have to wait and see, I guess. What do you think, Timothy?
I think waiting and seeing is probably the best tactic right now. Yeah. But good questions, very good questions. But like you, I don't have answers. We read what the Bible says, and then we wait and see how it works.
Yeah.
So we don't really have answers, but we can have indications, and it's there for us.
Yes.
It's there for us to know this. It's written for us. It's given to us. It's not
right
beforehand. It's it's a part of the worship of God Almighty to understand what He says, as much as we are able to do so.
Well, thank you, Yair. I appreciate your effort and your work. It goes into this every time.
Yeah, me too.
Yes, thank you. How is it over there, Yair, so you're behind the 10 tribes. What is the response in Jerusalem, or what the Jews? Do they have any response?
No, most of them never heard of us.
Okay.
But
okay.
What can we do about that?
Yeah, what can we do?
Yeah, no, but also some people have it. We do get around now and again, and we also have our websites. People know about us, and on the whole, the attitude is positive.
It is positive.
It's positive, but in the sense it's positive, but it's not overwhelmingly enthusiastic.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. That's what I've found personally too.
Yeah, like it's
They're a little bit standoffish. Like, we know this is true, but not now, thank you. Not now.
Yeah.
Is that what you find, Timothy? When you
yes, that sounds about right. I know a few people over there in Israel and Jerusalem and in the West Bank that are very enthusiastic about this whole teaching about the 10 tribes, but it doesn't get much traction. It's not spreading very rapidly.
Okay.
But anyway, it's out there, and sometimes it works, it percolates through, and sometimes overnight it could become very important or become much more important than it is at present. This is how
Yeah.
and so under the surface, a lot of people may have had an interest in it or a pull towards it.
Mhm.
It's something to set it off, as if to say.